A ceremony in Canton was held to pay respects to those buried at a unique and historic cemetery. Patients who died at an insane asylum for Native Americans were remembered, and Parker Brown brings us that story new tonight.
At the edge of a golf course is quite possibly the last place you would expect a burial ground for Native Americans, but in Canton, that's the case. It uncovers a very dark part in our nation's history, but today it was the focus of remembrance and honor in a special ceremony. Almost 400 Native Americans from 53 tribes across the country were sent to the Canton Asylum for Insane Indians over 30 years of operation. Most were not even mentally ill. Over 120 of them died under poor conditions and were buried on site.
Those individuals laying here were people, and many individuals in this nation, in this state, tribal nations even, have never heard about the asylum. It's for us, for me, a passion that I carry forth, something that was started to honor and remember.
The first ceremony to honor their ancestors was 55 years after the asylum finally closed. The keepers of the Canton Native Asylum story take pride in continuing the tradition of passing along the history.
History does not belong to us, we belong to history. And if we don't learn and understand what has taken place, there's a good chance that bits and pieces of it might repeat itself.
The site has been fenced in to keep it separate from the Hiawatha golf course that now surrounds it. Over the years, it wore down, and this year they received help to replace it.
Learning about the fence finally being repaired, it's such wonderful news. When we think of coming to visit our ancestors, we always want their place to be well taken care of.
The keepers of the Canton Native Asylum story are very grateful to the support that they've been given, not just monetarily, but in the support of people showing up to the ceremony year after year. In Canton, Parker Brown, Dakota News Now.